From Founders Financial, this is the Built by and for podcast, partner-to-partner conversations for independent financial advisors. Today, host Stephen Watts, Chief Growth Officer at Founders Financial, sits down with Brad Shepard, CEO, and Justin Neria, Chief Technology Officer at Founders Financial, to discuss build versus partner and why most advisors use only a fraction of their tech. Massive innovation, massive choice, and massive confusion. That's the tech landscape for an independent advisor in 2026. Here's the conversation.
All right, I'm here with Chief Technology Officer Justin Neria and Chief Executive Officer Brad Shepard. Thanks, gentlemen, for coming back. We're going to have a really good conversation around something that seems to come up in every conversation, technology, right? Mm-hmm. All the stuff that hits us every single day in our personal lives, the things that hit us in our work lives, the incredible innovation and revolution that's happening across everything out there now when it comes to tech. So can't be more happy to have you two gentlemen join me for, I think would be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, no, glad to be here. Lead on, man.
So, I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that technology has vastly changed over the last, let's call it decade and certainly beyond. And it's at a rapid pace now, right?
It's changing faster now, right?
It's even changing even faster. And it was already at a super fast pace. So talk to me about what you guys have witnessed and seen over the last, 10, 20 years that it might be in terms of technology and how it's just the pace of that you've seen it grow.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the best way to start for our industry is think about the Michael Kitces technology map, right? And so if you want the evidence that what you just said is true, and you go back 10 or 15 years, I don't know exactly when he started that, but he runs one of his annual things he does is list all of the different potential technology providers in our industry to serve financial advisors independently somehow, some way, whether it's portfolio management, whether it's just all the different things. And I'm going to guess when that thing first got produced, 10, 15 years ago, it had 20% of what it has on it today. I want to give you the numbers. And you go look at it today, and you have to zoom in and blow it up because every logo is now a small little logo because there's so much competition in all of the different areas of what technology can do to help an advisor run a practice, basically. Yeah. And so what we've seen over the last 15, 20 years, 10 years is massive innovation, massive choice, and therefore massive confusion, right? And advisors have more opportunities and options they've ever had today to think about how technology can help their practice.
Yeah, I mean, 10, 20 years ago, developing a product took years, and developers, cash flow. I mean, you start off with two guys in a garage and then start working your way up, right? Now with AI, they're just building applications like that
on the fly,
right, as they need them, right. Because they have hundreds of developers all working together, all the AI bots.
Right.
So the exponential growth change that's about to happen because of more commonplace use and availability of AI for everyone is it's going to be a mystery because we will have people who are utilizing that to help themselves, but then also help themselves attack others. So we'll have it'll be a big change this year.
There's two sides of this coin for sure.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it used to be where you have to get the capital to go build the technology platform you need, right? You had to get all the engineers, you had to get all the coders in there, right? And it could take months, years, whatever it might be. And then you were stuck with that.
And you had to prove you had actually had an economically viable case to go do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You could get all of that, but then you just had to have a proof of concept that what you were going to build was actually going to have demand and be purchased.
Well, it had to be evolved too, right? Because as things change, as needs change, I mean, you can't predict years and years in the future with great perfect certainty. So then you had the team to maintain it, right? And talk about cyber can become more important over the years, right? How do you keep it protected and secure? So the strategic element, and firms, in my opinion, sit at the tip of the spear for this, right? Because
they should.
They should. Because advisors don't have the time, capacity, capital in many ways to do this for themselves. So and especially today, firms should and often do sit at the tip of the spear for the technology conversation. So talk to me about the especially, starting with you, with, leading a firm.
Right.
What's the strategic thought that a firm goes through when they think about, hey, am I going to go invest the CapEx to go do this myself? What's the risk potential of doing that? What's the upside of doing that? Or am I going to go to the marketplace and say, you know what, what's out there that we can kind of pull into our orbit? And then how do you come to some decision, what is the right path for you to go?
Yeah. So I'd say I'm going to answer it from two lenses. One, founders, kind of organizational lens, and then our member partner advisor lens. And so at the founders organizational lens, 15 years ago, we hired consultants and we asked big questions. Should we be the CapEx investor and build our own tech, like some firms in our industry have done and done greatly and successfully? Or should we, take advantage of what was the early days of the fintech disruption and go kind of buy best of breed for what's being built out there? And candidly, we chose the partner with what's being built. And I don't know that we would have had the capital resources to go build what would have been required and maintain and all those kinds of things.
Grow and evolve it.
And grow and evolve it. So for us, in many ways, as for many smaller firms, while you think it was a strategic decision, if you're willing to admit the truth, it probably is more of a required force decision. Yeah, exactly. But then once we made that decision, I think we took a very unique lens in the independent space about then its application into why we're doing it, right? So everything for us, as you guys know, is why. Why are we doing this? What's the outcome of it? What is the gains that our member partners get? It's the single focus lens. And if we can prove that whatever we're doing is in some way wonderful and great for our member partners and their practices, then we're going to pursue it. If we can conclude it's not, then just get rid of it. And so on the technology front, and you've heard me tell the story before, but I think it's the right place to tell it. We went to our member partners and we had a in-depth conversation around what is our collective common need for this, and concluded through a series of questions and answers and a fun conference experience that for the most part, what advisors do, the reasons they want this technology, the work they do every single day is kind of like mostly the same. They do plans and they build investments and they trade and they do all of these things that every financial advisor does, whether you're with Founders, another independent firm, or even a wirehouse or a regional or a bank. At the end of the day, advisors deliver advice and they need tools to do it. And because Founders, while our members are independent, we cherish this notion of interdependence. They trusted us to begin to try to solve this problem on our collective behalf, rather than having everyone trying to figure it out for themselves. And so for most in our industry, it is a complicated, difficult thing to figure out, because I'm a business owner, I'm trying to deliver financial advice, and I got to go figure out my workflows, my technology, and keep up on it, all that. Founders took a different path, and our members entrust us to go do it. And so we built a technology stack that is what every one of our member partners need, and candidly, any advisor in the industry would need to grow and build a purpose-rich, servant-led financial planning enterprise. And so our focus, the minute we could come off of the strategic decision what we're going to own or build or partner with, all of our focus became how do we help our member partners then use and build a tech stack to grow their practices.
Was that only possible because the technology landscape flattened dramatically? Like there was more available through the fintech revolution, right? Is there more available to us where maybe in the past smaller firms, they didn't have the capital to go build it themselves, right? And who's to say, like small firms that to go build today, they may not be around as a result, right? Is the flattening of that technology availability, is that the reason we can go do that for all of our members?
I'll let you answer, but it's a simple yes for me. What are your thoughts?
It is. So when fintech booms happened, there was a lot more competition, which created more options for people to purchase into. And then you have all these ideas. It's all about innovation, right? So when all of these different tech companies came around and had all these different platforms, CRMs, all these tools, you had a lot of options to go to. And because of that is what allows us to be able to build and customize and cater our own systems. So
yeah, and it also required, for the developers of this fintech disruption, revolution, whatever you want to call it, to recognize that what they're building, in many ways, they built bespoke tools that solve a certain piece, but don't solve the whole thing. There's very few in the industry, unless you look at through merger and acquisition in the tech space, kind of solve a whole bunch of things. Each thing kind of solves its piece and place in the advisor and client life cycle of planning. And so the other thing that made it work, and to the credit of the industry and the technology developers, is they all played in the sandbox nicely. They allowed APIs to get built. They allowed data to flow between their applications, even though they were in many ways, different companies, possibly even competitors of each other. And so that decision, outcome, however you want to call it, made it so the strategic decision, certainly founders made, and other smaller firms would have made, likely, to not go develop and build it and own it, but partner with it, supported that outcome decision, and now made it easier for advisors to now use different technologies from different companies.
Yeah. I mean, during the innovation portion of that whole build out, when you're designing a whole system or integrations or whatever it might be, there's a lot that needs to be done. And what people don't understand is that the innovation part of it is you don't see the return on that until all that innovation is done. Right. And then you have to deal with the growth aspects to it and how to adapt it to your systems. And then things change quickly now over time. So.
Yeah. I mean, wealth tech is a thing now, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a powerful force in our industry. And they all understood that collectively they're better together than they are apart. And that went a long way to then validating our strategic decision and further enhancing the outcomes for advisors that are independent.
So, look, there's no doubt that some of the biggest firms out there have incredible technology that they've built and developed over many, many years. And they maybe infused it with more market tech available. But if you've built your own tech stack over many generations now at this point, and it's evolved, are you reaching a point, and maybe I'll start here with you, Justin, are you reaching a point where they're kind of stuck potentially, right? Because they've got so much invested in this. Or is it an easy pivot for them to move?
So we actually see this all the time now. There's some companies who have built off of archaic infrastructure and they've adapted it and evolved it over time. And then a new technology comes out and they can't adapt to that because they're on an old system infrastructure. We deal with vendors like that all the time. And then they have to do a whole pivot. So if that is when either they die or they pivot. So we've had CRMs who just died off because they can't pivot off because they're on old architecture.
There's a great technology book I read, and you probably read it as well, but it talks about technology debt, right? And process debt, right? You've built up so much debt by building on top of it for many years that you're almost like you're crippled in terms of being able to move in a real agile manner.
Now, I will say that over time, that debt's going to get paid off, especially with the advent of AI. It's so agile, it's so quick, it's so, it is game changing. So I think companies that have been more stuck there probably become less stuck there, if I'm just thinking about it out loud.
You have to make that decision, though, to get unstuck.
Yeah, right, you do. Yeah. And in many ways, the merger and acquisition activity industry is forcing the unstuck. Because when you buy that debt from the company you've just purchased, you only have one choice: get it to yours. And so it creates, again, for advisors, that tech debt makes it hard through transitions and all those kinds of things. So, but ultimately, and you've heard me say this, technology is the ultimate equalizer in the industry. It's the massive flattener, and the barriers to entry to do this well for independent advisors through firms like Founders and others it's the easiest, lowest bar ever, and it's going to stay that way. It is a commodity now, and so every advisor should expect and receive great solutions for technology to drive scale, efficiency, and growth opportunity within their practices. It should be expected at this point.
I mean, is it even possible that there's a competitive advantage to actually being smaller with a more nimble and agile stack than you would typically think? The big firms with large capex and able to large teams that can build this stuff out and configure even existing stuff, but that's heavy. There's a lift there, right? Is it fair to suggest maybe there's a competitive advantage to actually being nimble and leveraging a lot of the great stuff that's out there from partner developers and companies? Is there a competitive advantage there, you think? That advisors can feel, not just for firms, right, to make a little extra money, but actually advisors can feel it because they're going to get more out of it at that point.
No, we hear this all the time when we onboard new member partners. I couldn't do that, and I couldn't do this. because they were stuck in the stack that they were in. Versus with us and the smaller firms, you have the ability to adapt those systems. And we do have quite a large data stack as far as like all of our branch offices, but we have a standard that we implement across all of them. So we still protect them and safeguard them across those, and we do the process, and there's expectations set and all this other stuff. But when you're working with like larger wirehouses, they're like, no, you can't use that. You can't use this. This is what you have to use. So that goes back to cybersecurity questions about like what they do that to protect them on a large base control. So they're not as adaptable. Versus with smaller places, you can say, oh, let's work on this. This is something we want to use. Is this some tool that maybe the rest of our community might be able to use, right? And that's what Brad does a great job of doing.
Yeah.
He hears that input from everyone. He comes to me. We talk about what things that we can implement and things that we can adapt to, and give them more tool sets to use. So.
Yeah, you think about the industry, right? So, and you think about the roll up of RIA, which we don't spend a lot of time talking about because we're both BD and RIA. But part of the value prop of the roll up RIA model is they are on one system, one platform, one set of technology tools, and the outcome is that it's more complicated in the independent broker RIA space where you're supporting a independent 1099 business owner who has choice. That makes it more complicated. And firms are going one of two paths. They're going the path of you have to use our stuff, or they're going the path that we're not going to have stuff. And you're going to kind of figure it out on your own. And so
tricky for an advisor.
It can be, yeah. And so I think in that lens, as we continue to see the evolution of technology and how it does kind of levelize the playing field, I think there's an opportunity for advisors to improve their technology footprint massively, both large and small, candidly. Again, I don't think this is going to be a differentiator ultimately. I think this is something that we're all going to be required to have. It's table stakes. And firms that don't won't be here. It's kind of like that. And so I think the method of how you deploy it, how you partner with an advisor to learn it and use it better will be way more important than actually the technology itself in many cases. And so that's where I think smaller firms are going to have a massive advantage because we will have people that are partnered into their practices, helping them grow and use this stuff versus if they're, again, in an independent model, kind of left to their own devices to figure it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking from a marketing lens, which is where I spend most of my time. I want everyone in the cachet of like the homegrown tech stack is kind of losing its luster a bit, right? And now we've got all these great brands, these great technologies coming into the orbit of what we do. And as we kind of assimilate all these different technologies into packages that serve advisors really meaningfully across different areas, that cachet is actually being bolstered a little bit, right? Because you're seeing all these great applications and technologies now available to advisors, and it's not just locked into this gated ecosystem that typically controlled by the larger firms. So it's actually flipped a little bit, in my opinion, right? So you're seeing the advisors recognizing they have actually more access to a lot of great tools where maybe in the past they would not have been.
Yeah, I also think with the technology revolution that can take place, and we've had conversations on cybersecurity, all that kind of stuff. I think that there's the risk for advisors at becoming at odds with their firms, unlike they have before. You've heard the term frenemy in our conversations before. And it'll be interesting to see how the balance between letting an independent advisor kind of do what they want to do, build the stack they want to build for themselves, which candidly, in the modern world today, they're capable. It can be done. Versus the restrictions firms will or won't place. That's going to play out in a manner I don't know we know yet, candidly, as we continue to see merger, acquisition, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if I'm an advisor, I'm as excited as I've ever been about what's available in technology to help me grow my practice and grow my firm. But relative to what I expect of my partner, I think I should have the highest expectation I've ever had relative to technology footprint and what it does to help me grow my business.
So whether you're an advisor whose firm is kind of updating their tech stack, whether you're transitioning to a new firm or considering transition to a new firm, what questions should you be asking your firm or potential firm or even yourself about technology and what's right for you?
Well, a lot of times when we get these first touches with prospect vendor partners, a lot of the questions they're asking is the wrong one. They're not asking like, what do we need to do? It's actually, what are you guys going to do for me, for my cybersecurity policies and whatnot? And I usually tell them, like, you don't have to worry about it. You walk in the door and we handle it for you. We pretty much just give you a golden ticket and say, welcome to the chocolate factory.
I do like chocolate.
And then we handle everything for them as far as technology goes. We give them technologies that they even know existed to help them better themselves. And there's all kinds of things that they've learned to appreciate and have come to love of our technology stack of founders. So,
and it's also amazing, candidly, how many firms out there aren't really up to snuff as it relates to the tech stack and what it can do. I mean, literally every single one of the new member partners that joined Founders last year, it wasn't just a step upgrade. It was like lurch them forward, massive upgrade in their capabilities and their what they can do and their practices. Given that our technology stack, and so it's interesting that way. And so as an independent advisor, if I'm talking with firms, and again, you've heard me say it this way, before I ask them what technology they offer, I want to understand what's their strategy around technology. I think it's as important as it's ever been. And it's on 3 fronts. It's on cyber, it's on AI, and it's on, I'll call it the meat and potatoes that sit between those two things, which are the daily workhorses of technologies I'm going to use every single day. CRM, planning software, risk tolerance, the need, not the want to haves, the need to haves. And so what's the firm's strategy around the marriage of those 3 things, such that I can then see how being their partner, how them being my partner, is going to elevate the opportunity I have to do what I do best, grow and enhance relationships.
Justin, do you think that advisors are actually getting the most out of the technology they have, or are they only scratching the surface?
They're only scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Especially
why is that?
Like inside of Founders, there were so many tool sets they can utilize that they're so just used to the ways of utilizing certain things that they don't change, or they don't bother looking for a new, faster wheel. So a lot of times they stick on it. That's why like other CRMs and stuff, they're older, they're fine with utilizing, and when you show them something new, they're like, oh my God, I didn't know we could do this. I didn't know there was automation to do my touches and do all this other stuff. So I would say if I was going to give it a number, they use like 10% of their entire capacity of their tech stack.
So what's the catalyst for change on that? Is AI going to change that, where you're actually, because AI takes a lot of steps out of the equation, right? You're more just prompting and it does a lot of stuff for you. What's going to change it where advisors actually start getting not 10% out of their tech stack, but they're actually leveraging 90%, 100%, whatever it might be? What's that catalyst for change?
You're certainly optimistic. I'm
optimistic, man.
Wow.
I'm optimistic. We can start with 50%, but
I think this is like exponential. I think if you go from 10 to 13 or 10 to 17,
fair point.
That's so in math, 10 to 17 is a 70% increase. That's not a 7% increase, right? No, I think it's kind of like that, but so
I think the catalyst is being curious.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Right.
Yeah,
they need to say, can I do this better? Is there a way for me to make this more efficient? And if they start asking those questions to AI, the AI will say, well, you have this platform and this platform, you're not utilizing this tool. There's a lot of that's going to happen once they become more curious.
Yeah, so. I've always thought of this, and you've heard me say this before, is we don't think about technology as an employee as much as we should, right? Think about, we have like a human employee in our businesses, right? Yeah. We're generally pretty okay giving them lots of stuff to do, right? We're okay finding new things, even outside their capabilities, to go do, right? Because we need to delegate. We don't have time to do it ourselves. Some stuff, to be honest, we don't want to do ourselves, right? So we over delegate. We don't do that with technology. We don't get curious about it, right? We scratch the surface of what that can actually do. So I've always thought we should actually write a job description for every piece of technology we use. What is the function of that application? What is the purpose? Why does it exist? Why am I employing it by paying that subscription fee, right? Sure. It's basically a subscription fee is payroll, right? In many ways, think about it that way. Yeah. So if we did that, will we get more out of it? Will we get to 17%, or in my overly ambitious, close to 90%, whatever it might be? I'm curious what you guys thought of it. Am I just off the rails here, or is that a right way to think about it?
No, I think it's very much the right way. Again, it's by doing that, you're defining what's possible. Through that, you should also ask why. You want that technology to do that. And then once you get those answered, that's how you go do it. But I also go back to the question you asked before, and that is, what's it going to take? And you said curiosity, which I think was a wonderful answer. It's going to take advisors to act like business owners. It's going to take them to understand that they've got more to do than just deliver advice. And as a business owner, you have to spend time working on your business, not just in your business.
Which is knowing your employees.
Which is knowing your employees, which is knowing your org structure, which is knowing, your all these kinds of things, right? And so to me, it's, in many of these conversations, it circles back to this always, it's about leadership. And in our world as founders, it's about our partner leadership to them, with them, and it's their partner leadership of themselves and their enterprises to be curious, and then think about creatively how to drive this stuff forward.
As we get to wrap up here, or start to wrap up here, give me your vision, and this is kind of a big thing with everything going on in the world right now. Like where are we going? Like what should we be looking forward to? What do we see like the technology landscape evolving into? Are we in an evolution, or are we in a revolution of technology? And those things are very different, right? So I think I would probably say over the last couple of decades, we've been in an evolution, minus a couple little things that have really moved things up. The smartphone, for example.
Yeah, sure.
Are we in an evolution, or are we in a revolution, and what should we be looking for?
Go ahead.
I was going to say that we're hitting that point where it's going to be revolution, right? Right now, we've just been evolving our current technologies. Once we have certain things, like there's certain limitational points on technology right now, specifically like data, that's keeping us from being able to move forward with that. And that is things like capacity. We only have certain capacities that we can utilize because we're using silicon disk still. Once we have these newer technologies that are currently, like, they're talking about these Superman-based crystal-based data storage, and I can't wait till that comes out because I'm going to have my own ice fortress.
Yeah, there we go. I love it.
We're going to hit that revolution where it's going to be like technology. Everyone's going to be fighting over what kind of technology we need to deliver, and with the use of AI, that's going to enhance that. So
yeah, I think we're being told it's revolution. I think we are, because we don't know, we don't know. I'm speaking to the independent financial advisor now. Therefore, we believe it's revolution. But I think for advisor practice, it should be evolution. And so, you've arrived where you've arrived successfully for lots of great reasons. That doesn't change tomorrow because AI did something different or better, or technology did something different or better. And so, to me, it is revolutionary in the context of human history, but in the advisor practice, it should be evolutionary if thought about the right way.
Yeah. Great. We'll leave it there. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining, and awesome conversation. So hope to have you on again, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for spending time with us on the Built by and for podcast. If this conversation resonated, follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and share it with an advisor in your circle who's thinking about what comes next. To learn more about Founders Financial and our solutions for independent advisors, visit foundersfinancial.com. The Built by and for podcast is produced by Founders Financial. The opinions expressed by hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Founders Financial. Content is for informational purposes only and is not intended as investment, legal, or tax advice. Securities offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, registered investment advisor. Copyright Founders Financial, all rights reserved.